Yay, we are here. I stumble out of bed and make it to the kitchen. Pour myself a cup of ambition. We know what that is, right? Working 9 to 5. Okay, Elaine Marolakos Edelson here, doing my work of 9 to 5. Astrology Mojo, transformational astrology. That's what it's all about, folks. Here we are once again. Well, what a week. Okay, so as Mercury goes direct, it's not just the day it goes direct and everything is like, yay. It's all back to, what we thought it was because it's all about perception. I'll tell you what happened. As the post phase, when Mercury is going direct, begins to occur and things, change in directions in the heavens, what happens is things readjust. So it takes a good week to 10 days before you feel like there's less chaos or less distraction. And so we had a car incident. Anyway, everybody's okay. And I had to wait for the car to get towed yesterday. So that's why I was not on a Facebook Live. But we're good. We're all good. Today we're talking about Jupiter. And I think I have Jupiter in my little bag of tricks here. Do I? There's Jupiter. Where, mother? Where's Jupiter? Oopsie. It's all the way down at the bottom of my list. And I forgot to move it up. Come on, Jupiter. Do we see it? It's not showing up. Okay. That's okay. That's all right. Anyway, Jupiter represents expansion. Remember, folks, the planets don't do anything to you. When the planets make a move, you feel it. When you make a move, the planets reflect it. It's your timing. Are all Scorpios doing the same thing on the same exact day? No. Or any sign for that matter. So, Jupiter, as I said, represents expansion. Also, overindulgence or publishing foreign affairs, foreign or cultural affairs, languages, and a lot of other things, but also overindulgence. And it guides the astrological sign of Sagittarius. Now, Jupiter is in the constellation Sagittarius right now. So it's a natural placement. That's called a natural placement. And Sag rising, Sag moon, you're going to feel the impetus to travel more, to move, to grow, to mature, to expand on a dream or a relationship or something that you want to be doing. And now that also Mercury, which travels around the sun very quickly, is traveling through the constellation of Sagittarius, it has moved into position right next to Jupiter. And so approximately every year around the same time, whoopsie, my paper got stuck, Jupiter and Mercury will conjunct. That is within 8 degrees. That's a conjunction. That's called an orb. And the orb of influence I like to look at is 4 degrees because that's most intense and then exact. So when Jupiter is at maybe, whatever degree it's at, and then 10 degree or 9 degree, and then Mercury comes in as it's transiting and conjuncts it at the same degree, that's when you are ready to have something big happen. So what's that going to be? Well, it depends on who you are, and it depends on what that looks like to you and what you've been working on in your life. As I said, not everyone's going to have the same experience. But I can tell you this, for the year 2018, as we are here right now, that Jupiter is conjunct Mercury. As it starts, it moves in, you start to feel it, anything can happen. So throughout the month, especially around the 21st of December, 20th, 21st, and then through the 28th of December. So what does this mean, and what can you do with this information? Well, I'm ready to commit, or I'm overindulgent and I realize it's a problem, so you have to look at who you are and what you're doing. As Jupiter represents expansion, not necessarily positive or negative, Mercury represents communication. Not so much what you say outside first, when you open your mouth and you chatter, but what happens on the inside? What's the inner communication? What's going on in your heart, in your body, in your mind? Your body's talking to you all the time. Are you listening? Are you tired? Are you thirsty? Are you overwhelmed? Are you anxious? Do you deaden your nerves by sitting all day? Do you overindulge in chemicals that really repress your feelings and your emotions? Are you taking care of yourself? So you have to look at your inner communication first. What's going on the inside? Now, when the conjunction happens, it means that everybody on this planet is going to have an aha. So if you're working toward healing something, that's a big aha. If you are looking to expand beyond your peripheral vision, that's another big aha. So where would you like to take this energy? It's all about your clock and your timing. I'm going to take a sip from my snowman cup. Thank you very much. We have 3 of them. One for me, one for my husband, and we had a baby one they were gifts to us a long time ago when Aaliyah was very little. All right, so with Jupiter expanding in your mind, right? It's not doing it. You're doing it. You're expanding on something. What is it? Is it a business? Is it a career opportunity? Is it the idea that I got to clean up this place? It's such a mess. It's just out of control. Like it got too big. Or maybe your family's growing and the space is too small and boop, you're getting bigger and you need to move. Or maybe it has to do with your health. What have you been working on toward healing? If you're expanding on knowledge and research to help you heal, that's where the Mercury conjunction comes in really handy because suddenly the information comes to you. Maybe you Google something and you get the answer back right away. Maybe you've put out feelers to people and you get a phone call or an email or a card or a message or a dream. So, and it can be in a different language. And I'm not talking necessarily, Hungarian or French or German. It can be a different language that you are not familiar with. Maybe it's the language of spirituality. Maybe it's the language of law. Maybe it's the publishing language. Maybe it's dealing with all the things that Jupiter and Mercury represent. And Mercury represents communication on all levels, starting from the inside. So maybe it's the communication between your cells that you're healing. Maybe it is a foreign language. Maybe it's music or expansion in advertising or publishing. Maybe it has to do with you editing something, editing a new resume before you apply for a new job. Or maybe you got the pink slip. And that's the big expansion. See, it's not necessarily going to be positive or negative, but it is going to relate directly to who you are and what you've been formulating and expanding on in your life. So that's what I find really interesting too, because Jupiter, as it represents Sagittarius, sometimes it can bring up the judgments. Now, and Mercury in the sign of Sagittarius as well, conjuncting Jupiter, can bring up your judgments. What are your perceptions? What are you really feeling is your, like your brick wall? Like what's the same recurring, repetitive habit over and over? You have the same conversation with your sister, your father, your son, your daughter, your lover, your whatever. What is the same repetitive, and you never get past it? See, I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday, and I was saying how, neurons, those cool little things in our brain, and let me show you a picture of some neurons. I will move that up. I hope that one works. There we go. There it is. Okay. So your neurons output electrical impulses and information, and that information has to do with what you believe. So it's not necessarily true or false, but it's based on your perception. So when astrology, your timing, it's like, what time is it? When your timing comes by and it says it's time to change your perception, you might need to do some new things. You might need to change a pattern repetitively every day just to get into the habit of creating new, more positive neurons that help you to create a frequency that helps you to create a new lifestyle, and new opportunities will come to you. That's the expansion part. Sometimes I'll say, Jupiter is the benevolent planet. It used to be king of the heavens and royalty and excess and indulgences and gold and jewels and trinkets and wonderful things and opportunities come your way. And people think, oh, Jupiter's transiting my second house, I'm going to come into a lot of money. Okay, are you working for it? You got to ask yourself, what are these things that you're doing that would warrant this event in your life? Now, sometimes you'll get, say, Jupiter's transiting your 8th house in astrology. It might be an inheritance you weren't expecting, and the person doesn't have to die to leave you an inheritance. Maybe you get a check from Uncle Joe who says, I'm done with the business, and I thought you could use this now before I leave the earth. And, so things like that can happen that will be surprising to you just in the nick of time, right? When you think, just in the nick of time, I was running out of cash, I needed a new car, or, the boiler blew in the basement, whatever. So Jupiter, as it's an expansive energy, conjuncts Mercury approximately within the same time frame every year. So January of 2020, it won't be conjuncting in 2019 because it's doing it now at the end of December in 2018. But January 2020, Jupiter and Mercury conjunct again. Another big aha. What's the big awareness? What's the big opportunity? What's the big idea? That's my husband's business. It's called One Big Idea. And then also January again in 2021. You're going to experience the same thing. So as you look forward to these conjunctions that happen in the universe, remember, it's not the planets coming together that make you do anything. It's your timing. Some part of your body, mind, spirit, your holy trinity on earth, is ready to expand on something or ready to become more aware of something. I'm going to pull a card for everyone and see what the expansion globally can mean for people. I mean, there's so much going on in the world right now that it doesn't necessarily predict. We can't predict the outcome. Like, who would say 5 years ago, whatever's happening today would be happening? There are trends, there are economic trends, there are political trends, and when you know what's going on in big business and who's funding things, who the lobbyists are, you can predict a possible trend. But ultimately, when things start to happen and the stuff hits the fan, and you've been working 9 to 5, and you say, I am so done, I'm ready to move beyond this thing. All right, so let me just focus on a card for everyone for the Jupiter-Mercury conjunction in Sagittarius, which is about you experiencing something big. What's the, big thoughts require big actions. And if you need to change your mind and your perception in order to change your experience, because you're changing your neurons and you're changing your frequency, and that's all about energy, folks. And when you alter your frequency, you attract to you what it is you've been wanting to manifest. That's how it works. That's really how it works. And random looks like random when you're not paying attention and when you're not aware and when you're not in the present moment. Okay. So now Jupiter, Mercury conjunction. This is an interesting card. Here's something you want to look at with your perceptions. What exactly does perfection mean to you? Now, I used to have a definition of perfection where perfection was, if I just get it right, if I just keep doing it, I'll get it right. And if I get it right, then I'll get what I want. And then I wouldn't get what I wanted. And I'd say to myself, well, I'm not enough, obviously, or I didn't do it right because I didn't get what I wanted. Because if I followed the steps, A plus B equals C, St. Pythagoras, by the way, and I didn't get what I wanted, then I did it wrong. Or I'm not enough. And so perfection now for me, and I'd like you to think about adopting this idea that you are pure conscious love. And as long as you are moving toward compassion, kindness, actualization of your biggest desires, positive, healthy desires, not base desires so much, but not immediate gratification desires, but moving toward your bliss, with compassion and kindness and being present in as many moments as possible, you are already in a state of perfection. That's what it is, because you're constantly moving and shaping. There's no end game. You can get to a goal and finish that and say, okay, now what's next? And then you get to that goal and you finish that and you go, now what's next? So as you are constantly evolving and re-evolving, the revolution of you is what the perfection is about. It's you keep reshaping it. And when do you know when a piece of art is done? If you're an artist and you're painting or you're drawing, when do you know it's done? You feel it. You say, well, I could keep going, but I have a deadline to pay for the client, or I just need to be done with it because I need to move on. And when you are, and you always look back and say, oh, I could have done that differently, right? Because it never ends. The transition, the transmutation of who we are. We always want to be changing something. We always want to be doing something new because we're energy in motion. That's what we are. So when Jupiter conjuncts with Mercury in the sign of Sagittarius, the truth seeker is Sagittarius. Mercury represents communication, and Jupiter represents your expansion. So are you ready to expand on how you communicate, your perceptions, your ideas, your judgments, and to let things go and to start accepting what is? And acceptance does not mean settling for second best. Acceptance means being present in the moment and allowing what is happening to happen with healthy boundaries. That is acceptance. Knowing that, okay, I don't like what's happening. There was a fender bender. One of us wasn't paying attention, or maybe we're both responsible. I need to be more present. So you accept the moment as this is what happened, and now I need to move on and be more present in the next moment. And so as you do that and you combine this awareness with expansion, you change your neurons, you change your thought, your judgments, and then you start evaluating more instead of judging negatively. Make sense? So that's where you want to go with this energy. And as I said, your astrology clock is going to be different from everybody else's, even if you're the same sign as someone, or even if you're the same sun and rising sign as someone. You might have similar themes of what's happening, but overall, there's going to have different experiences because you're different. This is all about you, your karma, and what's moving forward, and what you're thinking right now, what you're manifesting, what you're working on. So what I'd like you to do in the month of December, here we are, and take a thought or a perception that you have that you know is negative, and you start to rework it with all the other videos that I've made and this one, using exercises that I've talked about, and then put something positive into motion that you really want to actualize, that you're hoping to manifest because it's your dream come true. I literally mailed a check to a writing retreat today, and this is my dream come true, to expand on my writing career. And for other people, it's finishing up a project that they know it's time. Or with other people, it's getting to know what they really desire. Because some people don't know who they are or what they want. So whatever is happening for you this month in December of 2018, remember again in 2020, it will happen again in January 2021. You will have the opportunity to alter your perceptions, and not just those times, but every day, every moment. But when Jupiter comes into alignment with Mercury, there's a lot of advancements made in science, in publishing, in communications, in advertising, and promotional materials, in expansion of language or devices that can help people to actually hear. So science, medicine, and then that's in the world, but in you, it's all about releasing the judgments that stop you from growing, and the self-criticism that stops you from feeling whole. Let's think about that. All right, folks, that was fun. I will be back on Monday at 11 a.m. Arizona time, and we'll talk again. Be well.